It feels like a boy. I know it's gonna be a girl. Come on.
Shut up, it's a girl.
Oh, what is it?
I don't know. The nominee.
You got the knife.
The winner is.
Wait, how do you get it?
Big money, big money, big money. Big money.
It's a
Before her name appeared in police reports, before court documents and headlines, Emani Diaz-Smith was a little girl, living a dream that most children never get close to. She was a Broadway child performer. When Emani was still very young, she stood on one of the biggest stages in the world as young Nala in Disney's The Lion King. Night after night, she sang and performed under bright lights in front of packed theaters. People clapped for her. Strangers smiled at her talent. For a moment in time, she represented joy, promise, and innocence. That is how many people remember her first, but childhood fame does not last forever. As she grew older, Emani stepped away from the spotlight. Her Broadway role ended, the applause faded, and she chose to live a private life. She later became a mother and focused on raising her young son. By her mid-20s, her life was quiet and centered on everyday responsibilities. On the morning of December 21st, that life came to a sudden and violent end. This is the story of who Emani Diaz-Smith was, what happened to her, and how a life that once brought joy to so many ended behind closed doors. On the morning of December 21st, the city of Edison, New Jersey, looked normal. Christmas was close. The streets were quiet. People were starting their day like they always did. Nothing about that morning warned anyone that something terrible was about to happen. Just after 9 in the morning, police received a 911 call. The call reported a stabbing at a home on Grove Avenue. When officers arrived, they found 25-year-old Emani Diaz-Smith badly injured. She had suffered multiple stab wounds. Emergency responders rushed her to Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital as fast as they could. Despite their best efforts, Emani did not survive. She was pronounced dead shortly after arriving at the hospital. In just a short time, a home became a crime scene. A family lost a daughter, and a 3-year-old child lost his mother. As investigators began their work, authorities made one important point clear. This was not a random act of violence. Police arrested Jordan D. Jackson Small, a 35-year-old man who prosecutors say knew Emani personally. According to Emani's family, the man charged in her death was her boyfriend. Jackson Small was charged with first-degree murder, multiple weapons offenses, and second-degree endangering the welfare of a child. He was taken into custody and is being held at the Middlesex County Adult Correctional Center. Authorities have not publicly explained what led up to the stabbing, who made the 911 call, or what happened inside the home before police arrived. They have also emphasized that these charges are allegations and that the case will be decided in court. What is known is that the danger did not come from a stranger. It came from someone close to Emani, her boyfriend. For many people hearing her name in the news, it sounded familiar. That is because years earlier, Emani was part of one of the most successful Broadway productions in history. From 2011 to 2012, she performed as young Nala in The Lion King. She was still a child, balancing school, rehearsals, and performances that required discipline far beyond her years. To the audience, she was confident and joyful. To the theater world, she was a hardworking child, doing something extraordinary. As a child, Emani Diaz-Smith was part of the Broadway world. She performed as young Nala in Disney's The Lion King, one of the most well-known stage productions in the world. She appeared on stage night after night, singing and performing in front of large audiences. For many people who saw her then, she was remembered as confident, focused, and very talented for her age. Theater was not new to Emani or her family. Her mother worked behind the scenes as a hairstylist for Broadway shows and television productions. She helped actors prepare before going on stage or in front of cameras. Because of this, Emani grew up around theater from a young age. Being backstage, watching rehearsals, and seeing how productions came together was a normal part of her life. Growing up on Broadway is exciting, but it also comes with a lot of pressure and responsibility. Schedules are demanding, expectations are high, and when a show ends, the transition back to regular life can be difficult. When Emani's time on Broadway ended, she did not move into another high-profile acting role. She did not remain in the public eye. Instead, she stepped away quietly. This is not unusual. Many child performers leave the industry and choose private lives, but leaving the spotlight does not mean life becomes easier. As she grew older, Emani focused on becoming an adult and building a life outside of theater. She took on everyday responsibilities that most people face, including work, family, and personal relationships. Eventually, she became a mother. By her mid-20s, she was raising her 3-year-old son and focusing on caring for him. Her life after Broadway was no longer about applause or performances. It was about providing for her child, managing daily life, and moving forward without the attention she once had as a child star. While the world remembered her for the role she played on stage, her real life after the spotlight was lived quietly, away from public view. What is publicly known about Emani's relationship is limited. Authorities have confirmed that the man charged in her death was someone she knew and had a relationship with. Her family has described him as her boyfriend. Beyond that, investigators have not shared details about the relationship, its history, or whether there were prior warning signs. That lack of information should not be confused with the absence of struggle. Many cases of domestic violence do not involve public arguments, police visits, or visible warning signs. They happen quietly, behind closed doors, until the moment they become impossible to ignore. In the days leading up to her death, there were no public indications that something was wrong. There were no known emergency calls, no public pleas for help, and no visible signs of danger. December can be a stressful time, especially for young parents. Financial pressure, emotional strain, and relationship tension often increase during the holidays. None of this is unusual, and none of it stands out on its own. Emani's final days appear to have looked normal from the outside. That normalcy is what makes the tragedy so unsettling. On December 21st, violence erupted inside Emani's home. Authorities have not released details about what led to the stabbing or how events unfolded. What is known is that emergency services were called and that Emani suffered severe injuries. Police arrived, paramedics responded, doctors attempted to save her life. They were unable to do so. Emani Diaz-Smith died at just 25 years old. There were no public final messages, no chance for goodbyes, only loss. One of the most heartbreaking realities of this case is what remains after the investigation begins. Emani leaves behind a 3-year-old son, a child who will grow up without his mother's presence, a child whose understanding of her life and death will come through stories, photos, and the love of family members who now carry the responsibility of keeping her memory alive. Prosecutors include a charge of endangering the welfare of a child, indicating that a child's safety was affected during the incident. Authorities have not released further details. What is clear is that this tragedy reshaped more than one life. In the days after Emani's death, her family launched a GoFundMe to help with funeral expenses, therapy, legal costs, and long-term care for her son. Her parents are now grieving their daughter while stepping in to raise their grandson. It is a burden that combines heartbreak with responsibility. Support has come from people who remembered Emani as a child performer and from strangers who simply felt the weight of what happened. Emani Diaz-Smith was not just a former Broadway child actor. She was not just a name in a criminal case. She was a daughter, a niece, and a mother. She was a child who once stood on a stage singing about courage and destiny, and a woman who tried to build a quiet life afterward. Her story reminds us that early success does not protect someone from harm later in life. It reminds us that violence often happens out of sight, and it reminds us how easily people can disappear once the spotlight fades. When the lights go out, what matters most is not the role someone once played, but the life they lived and the love they left behind. And Emani Diaz-Smith's life ended far too soon.